screen. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Planning and Zoning Board public hearing for Wednesday, February the 21st, 2018. The first thing I'd like to bring to your attention before we read our consent agenda, and currently all items, all cases are on this agenda, is your option and ability to fill out the blue cards that are at the back. And I'm not sure, I think I see one coming. If any of you wish to speak to or have comment on any of the cases that are on the agenda, we do need a blue card.
This one's in favor, just voicing their support, doesn't mean that it's pulled off.
Okay.
This one is that's actually being continued to March 21. So people just talk to them and see if they really need to talk tonight or if they want to wait and come back. This doesn't wish to speak.
Okay, well, I'll talk. Okay, whoops, we've got another one. While we're waiting to see what this third card will look like, are there any others out there that are contemplating submitting a blue card? I don't see any hands. I might mention Patricia Abraham, excuse me. You're speaking, you had a comment on case 17-00478 that you're in favor of. That's currently on, where, if I could show by your hand where you are, that's on consent agenda.
I found that out.
Are you okay? Do you still?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so we're not going to pull that one unless somebody else chooses to. Another one we have, this is Chris and Penny Konchak. Did I get that correct? This is case 17-00507. You're opposed to and do not wish to speak. What we want to bring your attention at that one, if I've got it correct, is actually being continued. So we're not going to take any action. Are you okay? Okay, I invite you back to speak once we will actually hear the case.
This one, they want to pull off 4E and 5A to speak. It doesn't say they're in favor.
Okay, and then the third card I have is from Todd Lutz. Are you here? Can I see a hand? Yes, okay. Yeah, you're with regards to 4E and 5A. You do wish to speak, so it looks like one is being continued and the other one is. Okay, I haven't looked to get these sort.
Yeah, they're not continuing.
Okay, let's see. So we're going to pull off 4E and 5A. Okay, have we got all the cards? Are there any others out there? Please raise your hand. I guess that is it. So the first item on our agenda for today is to read the consent agenda. And Michelle is going to do that, noting that items 4E and 5A have been pulled.
Yep.
You ready?
Yep. Okay, item 2A is approval of the minutes from the January 16th and 17th, 2018 study sessions and regular hearing. Item 3A is case ZON 17-00501 in District 5. This is a 5900 block of East McKellips and the 2000 block of North Recker Road on approximately 0.8 acres. This is a site plan review and a special use permit to allow for the development of a car wash in the LC zoning district. The staff recommendation is to table this item. Item 3B, case ZON 17-00509 in District 5, the 5600 block of East McDowell Road, located west of Recker Road on the north side of McDowell on approximately 4 acres. This is a site plan review to allow for the development of a mini storage and outdoor RV storage in the LI zoning district. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 4A, case ZON 17-00324 in District 2. This is the 1800 block of South Recker Road, located north of Baseline on the east side of Recker on approximately 3.8 acres. This is a rezoning from AG to RS 43 BIZ and a site plan review. This request will allow the land to be divided for the development of a detached single residence housing. The staff recommendation is a continuance to the March 21st, 2018 meeting. Item 4B, case ZON 17-00335 in District 5. This is the 1300 to 1400 blocks of North Power Road, located on the east side of Power and the north side and south side of Halifax Drive on approximately 2.3 acres. This is a rezoning from OC to ID1 and a site plan review to allow for the development of a mini storage facility. The staff recommendation is a continuance to the March 21st, 2018 meeting. Item 4C is case ZON 17-00478 in District 5. This is a 9100 block of East University Drive and the 100 to 300 blocks of North Ellsworth Road. This is approximately 16.7 acres. The rezoning of 13 of those acres will be from RM4 to RM4 PAD, along with a site plan review. This request will allow for a multi-residence development. The staff recommendation is approval with the revised conditions that we discussed at our study session earlier. Item 4D is case ZON 17-00507 in District 5. This is the 1200 block of North Ellsworth Road and the 9100 block of East Glen Cove Avenue on approximately 1.8 acres. This is a site plan modification to allow for the development of an enclosed RV storage facility in the LC zoning district. The staff recommendation is to continue that to the March 21st, 2018 meeting. Item 4F, ZON 17-00581 in District 2. This is the 4700 through 4800 blocks of East Baseline Road on approximately 21.8 acres. This is a PAD modification that will allow for modifications to an approved PAD for a multi-residence development in the RM3 PAD zoning district. The staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Item 6A is the ordinance amending the Mesa City Code, Title 11, Mesa Zoning Ordinance, Chapters 21, 22, 66, 67, 69, 71, and 77. The intent of the amendments include clarifications and technical updates to reduce the need for zoning administrator interpretations. The amendments are to make the zoning ordinance requirements clear for requests of a modification to approved plans, clarification of expirations of approvals, including addition of expiration time of 2 years for a design review approval and request for appeal. The staff recommendation is continuance to the March 21st, 2018 meeting. Item 6B, the proposed amendments to Section 11-31-34 of the Mesa Zoning Ordinance pertaining to the establishment and operation of medical marijuana facilities, and the staff recommendation is approval.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Board members, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve as read.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Dane, is there any discussion at this point? If not, please vote. The motion carries unanimously among those that are present, noting that Tim Boyle is absent today. Any of those that are here for those items are free to go at this time, or you're welcome to stay and listen to the two cases that we are going to discuss at this time. The first one being case 4E, that's 17-00519 in District 5, the 7100 block of East Main Street North Side and the 0 to 100 block of North Sun Valley Boulevard West Side, located east of Power Road on the north side of Main Street, 7.6 acres. And the request is for a rezoning from LC and LC Biz to RM4-PAD and site plan review. And it is to allow that the development of an attached single residential subdivision. That being said, we will first hear from staff, and Wahid, we turn the time over to you to do your presentation.
Chairman and
You know
member-
what? Excuse me. Can we go ahead and tie it to the plat at this point and read the
Sure,
motion?
do that too, yes.
Is that all right, John?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and thank you, Wahid. Sorry to interrupt there. In addition to that, we would like to connect us with Sun Valley Village District 5. known as item 5A, and I think that's adequate, correct? So go ahead, Wahid.
Chairman and member of the board, this is a request for rezoning, rezoning to RM4 PAD for townhomes. It's at the corner of Sun Valley and Main. The main access, there's two access, one from Sun Valley, one from Main. With vacant land on the west side, they have provided us with a conceptual site plan for the vacant land on the west side, but this zoning request is only for these 7.6 acres here. The applicant has worked with us for a long time, so to get an appropriate product that can be supported, they did citizens participation plan, neighborhood meeting, pretty extensive, like at least as far as I remember, like 2 neighborhood meetings, and others also. Staff has not received any comments from neighbors or any objections. In fact, we have seen some emails from surrounding areas that are interested to start looking at the rest of the vacant pieces around this area. This area has been vacant almost 30 years, I feel like. There was a hotel approved years ago, but nothing has happened since then. So this is, we know, to get our support for an employment commercial zone land to get into residential, they had to convince us with those conceptual site plan and this one. This is a townhome with a public street. There's no gate, so these are all public street. So, and then also they came up with an interesting arrangement, as I was saying in the study session, is that typically we get all 2-story, all 3-story, all single-story. This is kind of a variety of volume. They have grouped up 4 units or 3 units. So the end units are all 2-story, the middle units are 3-story. And they have stayed far and along the north side where you have existing mobile home park. There is a drainage channel pretty wide, and then the homes start. So then this property also have a setback from there, and the lot 29 is the lot that is closest to, and we have a condition that that lot cannot be more higher than 2-story. So with that, staff condition is for approval, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you, Wahid. Appreciate that. Board members, any questions for staff? If not, then we'll turn the time to the applicant to address us. If you would provide your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Greg Loper, representing the Mead Family Trust, 4402 East McKellips, East Main here in Mesa. This project's been ongoing nearly 5 years. It's adjusted a number of times, as Wahid said, to address market conditions as well as the aesthetics of the project. I have to publicly say that I appreciate Wahid's patience over this time. I think we've frustrated him a few times, and there's been a lot of chefs involved in this project, not a lot of cooks. With that said, I have a 36-page presentation I can give you, but I think it more appropriate to listen to the person who would like to speak, and then maybe I can respond to their comments or bring other things to bear.
So for that way, just fine.
Thank you.
We'll invite you back. So at this time, Todd Lutz, if you would like to come forward. State your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. My name is Todd Lutz. I reside at 11244 East Rembrandt Road in the city of Mesa, and I'm here today to represent the Las Palmas Mobile Home Park and its about 1,100 residents. I became familiar with this project probably about 4 months ago when we received, after the fact, and that could have been on our company's fault, notification of a meeting with fellow residents in the area. In that we're a mobile home park, the residents of that park don't get notified. The owners of the park get notified, and our corporate headquarters in Los Angeles. So In that time, what I've seen is I've seen the proposed site plan in the form of a copy that I received via email and talking to the applicant. We're not necessarily opposed to it, but we do have some concerns like we did with the Skyview project on Power Road, having to do with proximity to our mobile homes and the thought of 3-story units looking down into the backyards of our homes. And that is a concern with our residents in that area. Really what we would like to do, and I voiced this today in a conversation with the applicant, is meet with the applicant and possibly through the planning and design process to work through a couple of our concerns, one being grading, one being the proximity of a 2-story unit, lot 29, that's located pretty close to our project, and then just making sure that the landscape buffers are the plant material that works for both of us, in that we have a block wall that's existing there. We certainly would like to see plant material that up in that wall. So like I said, we're not necessarily opposed to it, but we would like to be involved in the design process a little bit and at least have our considerations heard. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lutz. Yes, Mr. Loper, if you'd like to come back.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, by all means, we want to be good neighbors to the folks that reside there. As the gentleman just said, it is a mobile home park, so it's not by virtue of trying to avoid talking to the neighbors, it's by virtue of the ownership arrangement for that park itself. In terms of the project, and I don't know if we have an aerial, an ability to put an aerial of that up, but there's the mobile home park, obviously all the units within that are single story. When we first started the project itself, we proposed a 3-story building, more or less, that was just this kind of monolith. And as Wahid mentioned, we came back with a project that steps the building. So it's 2-story on the end, 3-story in the middle, and then 2-story. And we have 3 and 4 unit blocks of buildings as depicted on the graphic above. So we tried to keep those blocks small so that they would have the appearance of a larger home. Again, we're coming from commercially zoned property, hasn't developed, not likely to develop a commercial, but nonetheless, those existing entitlements would allow for a more intensive development with closer setbacks than what we're proposing. We are proposing a landscape buffer along the north. There's an existing wall that we want to use that as our screening wall as well. There's no reason to have duplicate walls. It'd be the same height anyway. On the other side of that wall on their property is a drainage channel, and then to the north of that is the first unit. My blush looking at it is we have a setback from the northern edge of lot 29, which is the lot that's closest, and that's a 2-story home, to the back of the home to the north of us of about 35 to 40 feet. That's my guess. My guess is that's fairly accurate, but I wouldn't attest that it is specifically that measurement. I would have no problem with some type of stipulation, not trying to write stuff on the dais, but that we meet with them prior to the council action, or that they be involved in the review of the landscape plan at some level. But we're at the 1-yard line, having gone through a number of iterations on this, and would like to see this advance forward. Clearly, it's in the board's hands how you'd like to handle it. We'll meet with them after this regardless. I don't know if we could work something out before council or not, but I'd like that opportunity to go forward if you see fit today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Loper. Are there any questions from board members, first of all? Mr. Lutz, if I might ask you, you don't have to come to the stand, just by a nod of your head. His proposal to meet with you between now and the time it goes to council, should we approve this? Is that adequate for you? I didn't get the sense that you were opposed to anything, just clarification. Okay, so you're nodding your hand yes, meaning that the two of you will get together and you're okay. Any other comments? I don't see any issue then outstanding at this point. Not then, I will entertain a motion on these two cases. Shelley?
I would make a recommendation that we approve case number ZON 17-00519, along with a companion case of the preliminary plat for Sun Valley Village District 5. I would recommend that we approve this at this time with a caveat that the applicant will meet with the property owners to see if they can work the issues out prior to going to city council.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion at this point? I don't see any. Please vote. There it is. Therefore, the vote passes unanimously amongst those that are present today. That being said, are there, yes, John?
Chair, I just, for the benefit of the Mr. Lutz, who's here in particular, just trying to quickly look at the calendar, and Mike, Tom and Becky can help me out, but I would expect these to be introduced on the 19th of March with a hearing on April 2nd, if it follows
Okay.
the normal schedule, just so you have kind of that time frame.
Does that work for the two of you to get together? Do I see some head nods? I see. Okay, both are in agreement with that. Thank you, John. Is there anything else that you might have? Is there any other business we need to discuss? Okay, I guess,
The sign presentation.
well, I guess I ought to read the agenda again. You know, I have you think I'm in a hurry to get out of here or something. Okay. All right. We'll go ahead, Angelica, and turn some time over to you for presentation.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Angelica Guevara here with Development Services, and I'm here to provide you an update on the project that we've been working on updating the sign ordinance. We released a draft December 28th, and we're currently in the public review and comment period, which is why we're here. We wanted to provide a brief summary of where we are currently at on our project. Sorry? Okay. That's okay. We wanted to provide an update on where we're at on this project in order to allow the public to review the code and provide us comments. We really are looking for comments from all of the advisory board members and residents of Mesa, business owners, community members, as we move forward with this process. So for those that are wondering why we're doing this update, our code had been written some time ago, back in 1986, so it was in due time for a comprehensive update. In addition to that, there was a Supreme Court decision that happened in 2015. It was the Reed versus Town of Gilbert case, which I know is well known around the country now, and the decision from there indicated that we cannot base our regulations on the sign's content or message. And our code is currently written that way, so we're looking to update it in order to align with that decision. Some of the additional objectives that we're working with as we move forward with this update is to reorganize the code into chapters and sections that are more easy to use and read. Currently, our code is in one chapter within the sign ordinance. What we're proposing to do is to break it up into manageable chapters and sections that will allow users to find the specific sections and regulations that they're looking for based on the chapter. In addition to that, we are working on updating the portable sign allowances in order to remove the message-based classifications with which it's currently written. In addition to that, we're also looking to update the permanent sign allowances by updating the design standards and also adding allowances that will reduce the need for special use permits and comprehensive sign plans in the future by writing in some of the allowances that the Board of Adjustment has been approving in the last decade or so directly into the code. And so within this slide, I provide the various chapters that we're proposing to lay out the code in. And so it's specifically Chapter 42 will address portable signs, and permanent signs will be addressed in Chapter 43. Chapter 44 will address the prohibited signs, and then the rest of the chapters help round out the rest of the allowances and regulations for signage that's proposed. Moving forward with portable signs, we've laid out regulations based on the materials of the sign, the structure type of the sign, the method of anchoring or attachment to the ground or a building, and then also based on the zoning of the parcel and size of the parcel or lot. Because previously our allowances were based on the content of the sign. We're having to completely change how we do that, and so this is the methodology that we're using and moving forward with. As you can see in this slide, we have the various type of signs with sample pictures of what those signs could look like. And so starting at the top, we have the detached rigid signs. In the middle there, we have the attached rigid. Below that, the rigid A-frames. And then moving left there, the semi-rigid signs, the fabric detached banners, and fabric wall banners. And so the code is written in a way to provide allowances based on each of these descriptions and pictures. Within Chapter 42, we provide the allowances for portable signs. I have an example here of a couple of the tables that are within the code, and we invite you as board members and the public to go into our code, which we have provided a draft within our website at mesaaz.gov. If anybody is looking for that, we invite them to go to the Development Services page, and from there they can go into the sign ordinance update. We have a specific website for that where they can find a draft of the entire code. These are just a couple of those tables that provide the allowances based on the size of the parcel. And so it's going to provide the sign area, the maximum number of signs allowed, and so forth. And so we invite the public to go in and take a look at it. It is based on the zoning district and the information contained within these tables. So from there, just going back to the portable signs within the downtown pedestrian area, we are proposing to expand the area designated as a pedestrian area. Currently, that area extends from Country Club to Centennial Way, from west to east, and from First Street to First Avenue, from north to south. Because of recent developments, the extension of light rail and the proposed developments along the eastern end of that area, we're proposing to extend the downtown pedestrian area all the way to Mesa Drive. So it's the area that's outlined with the yellow rectangle on this map. This is the area where we allow portable signs currently, and it's the area that we're proposing to continue to allow portable signs in. Now I'll move over to discuss and provide a summary of the changes that we're proposing for permanent signs. And I'll highlight just the specific major changes that we're proposing. We've gone back and done an analysis of the comprehensive sign plans that have been approved in the past and tried to determine what has been requested the most and has been approved by the Board of Adjustment. And using that information to propose changes to the code that would allow some of those situations to happen by right, so that applicants no longer have to come into our office, work with staff to file an application for a special use permit and a comprehensive sign plan. So we're proposing to eliminate that additional hearing process. Applicants would simply need to come into Development Services and request a sign permit in order to receive approval for the information I'm about to cover. So one of those proposed changes is to allow a commercial center sign. That commercial center sign would be allowed to be 14 foot tall and 120 square feet in area. This is a change from the existing code where currently freestanding signs have a limit in height of 12 feet and 80 square feet in area. And in addition to that, any additional sign within a commercial center would be limited to a maximum of 8 foot tall and 50 square feet in area. Now, this would apply or would be applicable to commercial developments that have 3 or more tenants and that have more than 400 lineal feet of street frontage. But this would be an allowance that would be afforded to them if they chose to go with that option. In addition to that, just looking at the different patterns of development and where we're at currently, we have seen a pattern of needing additional signage on larger buildings. We have historically processed comprehensive sign plans for larger buildings to allow them to have additional attached signs. And so what we're proposing is that larger buildings that have more than 200 or 250 feet of building width or frontage would be allowed anywhere from 4 to 7 attached signs. Individual area for each of those signs would still be limited at 160 square feet, but we would allow them to be able to display additional signage on their building by right, and it would be based on the width of that building. In addition to that, one of the additional changes we're proposing is for pad buildings to be allowed to have up to 4 signs on their building. Pad buildings are typically up closer to the street and sometimes at street intersections. And so they do have a need for additional signage within their various elevations. So we're proposing to allow them to have those 4 signs by right, and each of those signs would be maxed out at 80 square feet in area. So the last major change that we're proposing is an increased sign allowance for multiple tenant office buildings. In the past, when the code was last written, or when it went through its last major overhaul, it was not as common to have offices that had multiple occupants in it. And that is the trend now. Offices are typically occupied by multiple tenants, and so they have a need for additional signage. Currently, they're required to apply for a special use permit and a comp sign plan and go through that hearing process. So what we're proposing is an allowance that would allow each of the tenants within that building to be able to display their own signage. So now I'll skip over to specifically Chapter 43, which is the permanent signs chapter. I've provided an example here of one of the tables that are within that chapter, and we invite everybody to come in and take a look at that specific draft of the code and take a look at the various tables. We have specific tables for the various zoning districts that will provide the specific allowances for attached and detached signage. Moving on now to electronic message panels. Currently, the code allows message changes to occur once per hour, and the ones that are proposed downtown do have to go through a separate review and approval process through a public hearing for a message panel. What we're proposing within the new draft is to allow message changes to occur once every 8 seconds. This does align with national safety standards. In addition to that, we are proposing reduced lighting levels from dusk to dawn, just because at that time of night, we really do not need as much light intensity in order to be able to see that sign. In addition to that, we're proposing no illumination be allowed from 11 p.m. to sunrise when these message panels are located within 150 feet of residential, and if they're not blocked by an intervening building or they're not in the downtown pedestrian area. Those would be the 2 exceptions, but that's in order to help reduce light pollution and light glare on residential. One of the other topics that we're having to specifically address with the changes to the code is flagpoles and flags. Currently, our code does not regulate the number of flagpoles that are permitted, but it does specify that flags that are displayed need to be of a nation, state, political, or religious nature, and the height is regulated by the zoning ordinance. We're not able to base our allowances on those specific indications, and so what we're proposing is to move forward with an allowance that would permit 3 flagpoles per lot or parcel. And in addition to that, 2 flags would be permitted on each flagpole, and the height would continue to be regulated by the zoning ordinance. We're not proposing any changes there. One of the other changes that you'll see is with freeway landmark monument signs, and this is really a minor change. The existing code allows the freeway landmark signs within the regional commercial and the public and semi-public general plan land use categories. In 2014, the voters approved a new or an amended an updated general plan, which no longer uses those categories. So the changes that we're proposing are to align it to the existing general plan. So what we're proposing is to allow it within the mixed use activity district, but because that is a more broader category than what existed in the prior general plan, we're proposing to add in specific zoning districts where these freeway landmark signs would be allowed. And so that is the commercial districts, the industrial districts, the planned community districts, and the infill development 2 district. In addition to that, we would be adding within the code the specific calculation for the allowable sign area, which is up to 750 square feet in area, which exists within the existing freeway landmark guidelines. So it's not technically a change, it's just adding it within the code. Another one of the items that we're having to address is murals. Currently, murals are only allowed downtown, and they do require design review board approval. We have heard a lot of comments and criticism about that, and so what we're proposing is to allow murals in any zoning district. There is a challenge with murals because they are artistic in nature and not necessarily always a intended to be a commercial message or a sign. But if the mural going forward is proposed to have sign copy that is over 2 inches in height and readable beyond the lot boundary or within 50 feet, whichever is more, then we would count that, just the sign copy, against the allowable sign area. We're not trying to discourage murals, we're just trying to discourage signage within the mural. One of the other items that we're proposing changes to within the sign code is to statues, sculptures, and 3D figures. Currently, those items do require a special use permit, and all of that sign area or all of that area of that sculpture or 3D figure is counted against the allowable sign area. That really does discourage property owners from installing those, and that's really not the goal from staff. We really do want to encourage these. They do help create a unique sense of place and interest within properties. And so what we're proposing is to permit these within the multifamily, the commercial, and the industrial zoning districts with a special use permit, and that only 50% of the area of the sculpture or the 3D figure be counted if the sculpture is within 15 feet of the building or 100 feet from the right-of-way. The intent with that is that if they're located more than 100 feet from the street, so they're further from the street where they're not visible from the street, we're not going to count any of that area of that statue towards their allowable sign area. But if they're located closer towards the street where they are being used as signage, then we would count half of the area of that statue towards the allowable sign area. Now for window signs, a very interesting topic here. So currently, within our downtown area, we do allow 30% of the windows to be covered in signs with signage, and outside of the downtown area, we currently do not have a restriction. We have received a lot of comments about that and a desire to start regulating window signs just because sometimes they are used excessively. So what we are considering is moving forward with an allowance of a maximum of 25% of the window to be covered in signage. This does align with the regulations that the cities of Chandler, Gilbert, Scottsdale, and Tempe currently have. So moving on to the next steps, we will continue with our review and comment period through the month of March. And we, like I said earlier, invite the public and any of our board members and residents and business owners and any stakeholders to go out, take a look at the code, review it, and provide us feedback and comments. We have received some interesting comments that have posed some interesting questions for us that have really made us think, and so it's allowing us to go back and take a look at the text and see if we may need to make changes, which is exactly what we're asking for. And so we continue to welcome that feedback and those comments. Now next week on the 28th of February, I will be making another presentation to the Developers Advisory Forum that will be held in this building at the lower level of the council chambers at 7:30 in the morning if anybody wants to join us. In addition to that, we will be back the month of March here at the Planning and Zoning Board study session to provide you a summary of the comments and or changes that we are proposing based on the feedback that we've received to date. We will continue to review and prepare our final recommendations on this update through the months of March and April, and are hoping to come back to City Council for hearings in order to obtain a final decision on these changes in the months of May and June. So again, I continue to ask for comments and any questions. They can be sent into an email address that we have. It's signinfo@mesaaz.gov. If anybody wants to send those in, we'd be happy to take a look at those and take those into consideration. So that's all I have for today, unless any of the board members have any questions.
Thank you, Angelica. A great presentation. Michelle, I see a question.
Just a quick comment. I just wanted to say it seems very reasonable, the changes that you're requesting, fair for the businesses. There's some protections in there for the residences that are close. And it seems like it'll benefit the staff too, because hopefully you'll be processing a lot less cases that have to go to the Board of Adjustment. You're already busy anyway, so it sounds like a win-win situation for everybody.
Chair, Board Member Dahlke, we're certainly hoping so.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? I don't see anything. So John, we're good to go. Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? All right, first of all, anybody want to discuss that? Okay. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We'll see you next month.